Alrighty. There is something that we need to discuss as a country. There's a lot of things that we need to discuss as a country right now that aren't being discussed appropriately, and they're being falsely presented. And without these facts and figures, we are blind. And this is why, creating a digital prison in a country, it's not as easy as they said in the board meeting, in the presentation, in the PowerPoint presentation. It may have been step by step, and this will be as simple as doing this, and then they shall all be enslaved. And it's like, basically what we have now is we have a almost uniform distribution of an entire generation, the Gen X and the boomers, who have been forcibly had their salaries, their wages garnished for 40 years or 30 years, however long it is, to provide a thing called superannuation, which has majoritively gone into the stock exchange, global stock exchange, which has majoritively whittled down to a couple of key in industries and corporations, one of them being Apple, Google, Facebook, and then the others, medical, pharmaceutical company, all these things. But now this is all now declared as a illegal prison that has been forcibly, funded. It's great because it's like you have a choice over what superannuation you have, but basically people will be people, and people have done this. Now, I don't think that gives any of these people protection. You can't have a democracy in an election where you have the older generations owning a sex digital peep show slave fucking spy fucking ecosystem on the younger generations. That's not at all, that's not at all legal. It's not legal if one person does it. So basically, imagine the state of the world if on every newspaper across the world, and we can already see what's happening with these Epstein files and things like that. We find Anthony Albanese has two young women, barricaded and chained in a basement at the bottom of his house. Imagine that, right? But our politicians of the past 40 years have done this to the world. And there are, if you take the demographic of a majoritively, white, upper class Australia circa 1989 to 1999, 2009, they are the majority owners of the shares of these corporations that have done this, and there should be no doubt in anyone's mind that this is what this is. It has lowered the standard of acceptable social discourse, and this is actually, and the way this affects me most of all is the swearing. I've been exposed to so much swearing. My culture was so hyper, whatever with swearing. Now I'm old now. I'm almost 40. The 20-year-olds coming out have been exposed to swearing, violence, drugs, and prostitution and exotic, pornography constantly. So I can only imagine my whole job, the thing that keeps me from actually running is the fact that I say fuck too much, because I was raised, the pinnacle of, my year 7 exposure to these was South Park, and they said fuck and cunt. That's why we all say it. It's that simple. And that's how they're keeping me out, is because I say fuck and cunt too many times. And they're literally financing and constructing the largest fucking, like, drug-fueled fucking Middle Eastern fucking, organized criminal fucking sex slavery super fucking empire. And they're expecting to retire on that. And it's landed in my lap to break it to them, I guess. And to break that. To break this. This is like, if you imagine these types of Eyes Wide Shut, these fucking, elite fucking sex things. It's like, all right, they might, you imagine like back in the day, they might have had, like, I think in Eyes Wide Shut, neither of them have a phone visible. It's like, if you imagine what they're doing, it's they've got a wallet and they've got some elite fucking card, perhaps even at that point with a chip or something in it. It's like, now they have this. And they've distributed these around the entire world. And social media is the only thing that stops these from being a fucking prison cell. And then our government turned off social media for children. And they've already, it's like they've limited and controlled and everything, the diplomatic speech in such a shrinking level of acceptableness. Because if the true message that the Australian people, under coercion and basically mandate, were forced to, willy-nilly have their income subtracted and invested, what majoritively landed in superannuation, mutual funds and things like that, which majoritively landed in this system, which built this, which now we have a World Economic Forum jet setting to Davos to discuss how they built this and how they're going to decide what happens with it. And we have Donald Trump, quite like I am, zooming in there on a Zoom call, and I'm zooming into Parliament. And it's like, before, hate speech. Think about what's hate speech. Like, think about all right, hate speech, okay. So that might initiate all types of things. Misogyny, all these. It's like, this is going to lead to this. It's like, if I build a fucking supercomputer fucking industrial network chain that supplies desperate and lost and dissolute young women across the world to, proportionally wealthy elderly men, I'm a pimp. And so this is what collectively these two generations, more so the boomers than the Gen Xers, but the Gen Xers just the same, have built. And this is what they are claiming is Australia. Now, Australia has a colourful history of prostitution. It's celebrated in Kalgoorlie. If you want to go to Kalgoorlie, we dug up all the gold. There was prostitutes there because gold was being dug up and you would get big wins. And when people get big wins, they spend it on prostitutes. All contained in the little town of Kalgoorlie. Now, that worked. And when I was a child, it's like there was a tourist trail to go to Kalgoorlie to experience this. When I was a child, I can count on one fucking hand, and it's actually less, it's like 3. The 3, and I was observant as a child, the 3 brothels that I had, and I drove all over Perth as a child. My dad, took us around all over the place. So the 3 brothels up until the age when I was, I reckon about, it's got to be probably 20, 25. So up until 25, there was 3 brothels in Western Australia that I knew about. There was obviously more, but there was 3 that I knew about, maybe 4. And then there was Kalgoorlie, which had its own little thing going on. And now there is OnlyFans open thing, and there is a fucking Chinese or Thai fucking massage brothel every fucking 20 minutes across this entire state. And both of these things have been built by these two generations. And not just built, it's like invested in. And so they own them, and they provably own them. They own them for tax reasons. And it's like, well, those two things, that this unholy, ungodly fucking industrial chain is going to create such a burden on this country. It's going to make smoking look like an asthma inhaler. And, you know, who knows whether asthma inhalers are good or bad anyway, but I'm just using it because asthma inhalers were obviously a medical thing that was distributed under very different circumstances. But it's like, and they could be bad. So it might be, it's going to make cigarette smoking look like fucking a box of fucking Smarties. And it was the cigarette smokers who paid the fucking tax to enforce that this was built. So unlike circa 1996, 5, whatever, whenever the tobacco trials were, you know, these large corporations trying to hide and moving product around, and they're on trial. It's like the people that are going to be on trial for 2026 is every single person in this country that holds shares in Apple, Google, Meta, OnlyFans, you know, psychiatric medication, all the opium trade, the fucking, all of this thing. You are digital fucking criminals. It's all held here. That's the problem with it. Because it's all encompassed at the same place. The thing that I haven't used now for, I think it's got to be going on 6 months, maybe 8 months. And I will never use again. I will never use a smartphone again. You know, every app that says your bank balance here. The problem is it's all held in the same thing. And there has never been this much trust between anyone. And it's like there hasn't been this much trust between people that live in London and people that live 3 hours from London, let alone global fucking empires to keep this going. It is exposed as the one thing it is. It is a fucking sabotage super fucking highway for old men and old women to finally spend the inheritance. But they don't mean spend the inheritance on a caravan. They mean blow the fucking world up. They mean leave this place in fucking flames and go out with a fucking morphine drip in fucking nirvana. You know what I mean? That's what they mean. Because how dare you be young when I have to be old? How dare you get to be young with all of the things that we built for you? While I have to be old. Pretty fucking sad, isn't it? It's like, oh God. Oh, is that it? Yeah. That's it. And do you know how I know? Because I had the same thing when I was a young father. How dare you all get to be young while I have to be a father? How dare you all get to experience all this new world, this new wonderful digital fucking world, while I have to sit here and be a father, while I get spewed on and pissed on, and I have to, deal with bickering children and sibling rivalry and marriage issues and financial stress and fucking 600% tobacco tax. And my mother having issues with the children's mother, and how dare you all get to be young in this utopia built by our elders, while I have to be a father. Well, I guess that's all come to an end.